Hello, people. I have found another problem that's not completely articulated, so I'll make some assumptions and go ahead and solve it. So this problem is about a block that's on a surface, and a force is being applied to the block, pushing it up the surface, and we can assume that gravity working on its mass is pushing down. So one question we could try to answer is, what is the acceleration assuming that there is no friction? So best thing to do in a physics problem with forces is to draw your free body diagram. So here is my block. It has its weight pushing down, and parallel to the surface of the wedge, it has a force being applied to it in this direction. So if we want to know the block's acceleration going down the slope, we're going to have to figure out the net force that's parallel to the slope. So we're going to have to take the weight of the block and break it into two vectors, one that's parallel to the slope and one that's perpendicular or normal to the slope. So let's go ahead and take the force of the weight and break it into those two parts. So here's my vector going forward. I'll call it the part of the weight that's parallel, and then we have the force going into the wedge, which is the normal force. The angle from the slope shows up in our free body diagram here. So this is our angle theta. This is a right angle. All right. The next thing we can do is make an equation for the net force. That's parallel. So the overall net force is going to be the force coming from the weight that's parallel minus the force that is pulling it up the slope. So if I want to know how the parallel force relates to the downward force, I need to think about trig. So since this is the opposite side, it's going to be the sine. So the sine of 29 degrees equal to the force I'm after divided by the weight, Fw. So if I solve for the parallel force, it's equal to the weight of the object times the sine of 29 degrees. I can go ahead and plug in the force up the slope, which is 44 newtons. I can find the weight from the force by multiplying 9.8 newtons per kilogram times how many kilograms do I have is 5.2. Now I have everything I need to know to get the net force. Calculator. So I get that the net force is negative 19.3 newtons. Negative in my problem means that its net force is going up the slope. We can use the most important equation in physics, force equals mass times acceleration. If we solve for acceleration, we get force over mass. So we have negative 19.3 divided by the mass of the block. We get negative 3.7 meters per second squared. So this tells you the direction would be accelerating up the slope of the wedge. Let me know if you have any questions.